Hello and welcome to the Cooperative Game Chat. I am the Wiz.
And I'm Zero.
Zero. How you doing, man?
I'm pretty good. I think I'm almost at the end of Ghostwire Tokyo because I finally got to a point where the game gives you the point of no return warning.
Oh, okay.
So, pretty much, I only have one thing I'm trying to do, and it's mostly slightly annoying, mostly because it's just sort of RNG based, but um, I won't get into that until maybe a little bit later on discussing Ghostwire and everything.
Well, we're already here, so why don't we? My
uh,
attempt to have small talk chat just turned you into playing Ghostwire, so why don't we just get right into it? You've been playing Bethesda. It was Bethesda who Tango GameWorks' new game, right?
Yeah, Tango Gameworks is the developer, whereas Bethesda is the publisher. It is a Shinji Mikami joint, so
Yeah.
for those of you who were fans of his previous recent release, which was Evil Within 1 and 2, this one has its own unique flavor, even though conceptually, I think Ikumi Nakamura is really the person behind the concept of Ghostwire Tokyo, so she really deserves most of the credit. And I think I was reading rumors that unfortunately she was not credited in the game credits because she
Really?
technically left the studio. I haven't gotten to a point where I can see the credits just yet, but I'll have to see if that's the case when I finally get to beating the game and everything.
I wonder
Um,
what is the standard practice of who gets to be on the credits, because I think if you're a creative, um, what was she, creative director?
I believe she was the creative director.
I would assume that if you had it in the beginning, you were the creative director, you should get credit for that at the very least.
Yeah, I know there have been a few articles from folks like Jason Schreier back when he was at Kotaku about um, credits in major label video games, and
Hmm.
I know the standard practice, unfortunately, is you have to stay until the game gets launched to retail in order to have your name on the credits. Doesn't matter if you're a creative director, if you're a QA tester, or someone someone who is on the network technician team that was building out the multiplayer component. You have to be there until the end. So um,
That
I'm
is,
assuming I'm assuming since Nakamura-san left right before the game finished, Bethesda was just like, yeah, we can't credit her, so just whatever. Just Mikami-san, you figure out who's going to take the credit for it.
that is a problem. That's a big problem because
Oh yeah.
um, aren't there games like you would hear with these big games that come out where the director of the game that finished his job, and there are other reasons why a game is delayed, so they leave the company thinking, well, my part's done, so I'm good. I'm out of here. Then, but because it wasn't, he wasn't there till the very end. He gets no credit. That's weird.
Yeah.
Well,
So
then,
it'll
if
be
they had a
interesting to
union,
see. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if the talk about Nakamura-san not being credited at for Ghostwire is true, because if not, then that'll be very depressing to see.
yeah, that's unfortunate. Okay, but when we last talked about it, this is the episode that did not go through, so we're gonna just dive right into it. You just started it, so you're about almost finished, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
I think my total playtime is maybe about 25 to 30 hours at this point.
Okay.
Um, and that's with me doing all the side quests, finding almost all the collectibles. Um, and also, uh, I think one of the other things I'm missing is just going to all the major landmarks, and that's really about it. Uh, yeah, there are the typical like things that you'd almost find in Skyrim. So I mean, yeah, that there's stuff like just kind of searching around and getting stuff. So I mean, for anyone who enjoys that sort of thing from Skyrim, then there's plenty of that. But it's definitely got more Japanese flavor to it because some of the things that you can get uh, are relics, items, and other things that sort of reference Japanese legends and mythology. So if anyone's into mythology or is a big mythology nut, then um, you're gonna have a great time with just all the side quests because really, I think what doesn't make them too bad is they aren't grindy. They aren't just needlessly painful that you're just kind of beating yourself up going, why? Just why am I doing this? This is the worst side quest I'm enduring. I hate this. Because I'll be one to admit, as much as I love Skyrim, some of the side quests were just not fun. And when I figured out that they weren't fun, it was just, all right, time to reload my save and
Hmm.
just make sure I skip that quest.
Yeah.
But
So this
that's go ahead.
okay. This is more Skyrim than a horror game because when they first announced it, it seemed like it was going to be a supernatural horror game.
Yeah, so the game's concept has changed since the initial reveal. Um, it definitely looked like it was going to be more of a horror game, but what it's turned into is sort of an action RPG with a lot of Japanese horror and mythologies sort of crammed into it. And that's not necessarily a bad thing in my opinion, but I know some people were hoping for just another really unique uh, maybe survival horror game because you had Shinji Mikami's name attached to the project and and just the concept was definitely leaning much more into the horror side of things, but I guess somewhere along the way the concept got changed and we basically have Skyrim in the city of Tokyo, in particular the Shibuya district of Tokyo, and a lot of verticality because there are a lot of just big skyscrapers and everything in Tokyo, and also so a lot of verticality with just climbing up skyscrapers and things like that. The um, the reason I um, uh, call it like Skyrim is mostly just because as you've got the first person perspective combat and everything, uh, so you've got that going on, and your weapons are essentially magic spells,
Mhm.
though they borrow more from kind of the Japanese side of Buddhism and Shintoism, and that that's one thing that looks absolutely excellent in here. When you change between the different spells and everything, um, uh, your your hand positions change, and the animation just looks fantastic. And on top of that, just the visuals of each spell look real neat too. So, like when you get your first spell, which is the wind blast spell, you'll see like just glowing green in aura, a glowing green aura effect, just kind of swirling around your hands like a small tornado. But then you'll also see um, just um, the the Japanese character for wind that's also kind of in this swirling tornado, just centered over your hand and everything, swirling around. So just it looks real neat. And then of course, when you change to other spells like the water spell, then you form a an orb of water in your hand, and and again you'll also see the water character sort of swirling in this orb of water, and then when you launch it, it just looks like just this blade of water just shooting out of your fingertips.
Hmm.
So just the animations for the attack spells just look nothing short of just awesome in my opinion. So Um, but again, the area you're exploring isn't quite as big as Skyrim. It's kind of constrained, but that's not necessarily a bad thing because just the focus of just the overall feel of the game
Hmm.
just feels it just feels like that they had a cohesive vision
Okay.
and that everything just sort of works out. And I'd almost sort of compare to the Yakuza series because I know initially when Sega released the Yakuza series on PS2, they tried to kind of make it off as, hey, it's Grand Theft Auto, but in Japan, and of course, some people kind of bagged on it because there wasn't as big of an area to explore like in Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
And then, of course, finally, after a while, Sega realized, hey, actually, marketing Yakuza as the Grand Theft Auto of Japan is actually sort of not the best way to sell it. We need to sell it as something else, and finally just sort of um, gave Yakuza its own identity with the advertising in the West. And and of course, finally, just once you had that going, a lot of the critics and even casual fans are kind of like, okay, just yeah, the area to explore is small, but that's not a bad thing because it feels like Japan or what I would expect Japan to look like. And I feel the same is true for Ghostwire. Just um, the area to explore isn't ginormous, but the visual design of everything just feels very, very much planted, and it makes sense.
Now, it's funny you mentioned Yakuza because you're right. Yakuza is set in a small area, but there's a lot to do in Yakuza that builds out the game to be a rather long game for each iteration. Uh, I'm guessing that Ghostwire Tokyo isn't that long, but is there a lot to do in the game, or is it, or do they give you a set amount of things to do and then that's it? I mean, is it how do I put this? Um, yeah, what exactly do they give you in side quests, and is there a lot of flavor and a lot of you have the main quest. Is there a lot to do in the game other than the main quest, or is the main quest really it that you have to do?
So the game has quite a bit for you to do. So one of the things that you'll be introduced to is um, you'll have to pick up the um, Katsushiro objects, and these are basically paper tokens that essentially represent a purified human vessel
Mm-hmm.
as a proxy, and you need these to collect the souls of the people who were basically vanished out of their physical bodies and just turned into ethereal spirits. So, um, in the beginning, you only I think you get maybe a couple. So naturally, you can only collect as many souls as you have Katsushiros to hold them.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that the game will set you off to do is they'll say, "Hey, so you've got the option of buying Katsushiros from the Nekomatas, which the Nekomatas are two-tailed cat demons that have taken up to running the convenience stores. So you can buy the Katsushiros from them, or you can go on relic hunting quests,
Mm-hmm.
and the relic hunting quests are essentially a scavenger hunt throughout the entire game to find things that are either ancient ancient looking relics to even modern day contemporary sort of things that um you could call modern day relics.
Okay.
And you can turn these into the Nekomatas, and uh, in some cases, some of these Nekomatas will even give you Katsushiros as rewards for finding X number of relics around the city.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one side quest to do. The second side quest is when it starts right when you get your wind spell as your first offensive tool. So the other side quest that opens up is the ability to increase. Um, it's essentially increasing your ammo count because with the spells you can only fire so many uses of the spells, and then um, you have to break things to generate ether to essentially refill your ammunition for each different spell. So once you get your first attack spell, then the game will say, "Hey, so if you want to be able to shoot more of your wind spell, you're going to need to find um, going to need to find these small Jizo temples that are kind of scattered around, or not temples, but Jizo shrines scattered around the cities, and these are small little shrines that." Um that the main character Akito can go and pray, and when you do, you'll get um, you'll get a extra charge on whichever attack spell that you find a shrine to. So there are three different shrines types of shrines defined. One for your wind spell, one for your water spell, and one for your fire spell.
Hmm.
So you've got that to do. Then then you have just plain side quests, like you might find a person whose spirit is not able to rest, and they might have a grievance, a mortal grievance that they were never able to solve when they got separated from their mortal bodies. So the side quest might be something as normal as, "Hey, I think the landlord stole something from me. I need you to go and find it." And then turns out that the landlord was doing something really evil with the object that they stole. So you end up maybe fighting the landlord's corrupted spirit as a demon or something. And then once you do that, you go back to the person who had the grievance and set you on the quest, turn it in, you get rewards that can range from cash, spirits, um, clothing for the main character, just all sorts of things that you can get out of doing these quests. And then, um, kind of in a goofy sort of way too, there are also some very humorous quests, and um, either I can talk about it or talk about some of the humorous quests, or we can always just skip it if you're not into that.
I mean, we can get into it. I'm just curious if like, do the side quests add flavor, or do they add more to the story, or is it just busy work?
So that's the thing, though. Some of the quests add flavor while you're doing them, and then some of them add flavor via their encyclopedia entries. So
Eh.
that's kind of where a lot of the flavor of the game comes out. So, like when you collect some of the relics, when you collect the relic, you'll get an encyclopedia entry that really goes into detail about the relic you collected, or in some cases even the demons that you kill, which is kind of neat for someone like me who's always loved mythology, because like um, with the demon encyclopedia entries, some of them even go as far as talking about like uh, notable historical figures in Japanese history actually encountering these demons according to legend.
Mm.
So for anyone who might be a history nut, or who might be a mythology nerd, they might enjoy uh, some of the encyclopedia entries. So that's where a lot of the flavor comes from.
Okay. So it's see, I don't. I'm only I think two ways about it. If you're gonna add flavor to the game, why not add flavor to the game instead of putting it in a text bubble?
Yeah.
It was okay. It really wasn't okay when Mass Effect did it. This is where I remember it starting, is with Mass Effect, and the excuse was if they were to add all that stuff into the game, the game probably would not have released until now. Which, okay, but there are ways to, well, not, there are ways to put it into the game without putting more assets into the game, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, are these important details, or are these just ancillary details that are just like, oh, that's interesting, or is it like important to the story?
So for like the Nekomata relic hunting,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the entries are more sort of um, just kind of flavor and flavor, cultural and historical stuff. So nothing that adds to like the gameplay and things like that. Whereas you've got stuff like um, the the demons. They go over some of the demons and everything, but um, really just even the demon encyclopedia doesn't really go into things like weaknesses or anything like that, or any sort of like combat hints. So a lot of the stuff is just purely for flavor, and then of course, kind of like kind of like in the Bethesda games and stuff, you've got like a um, a tutorial encyclopedia. So if you need a kind of a refresher on certain mechanics, then you can read those,
Mm-hmm.
and then um, the consumables where it talks about the food items in the encyclopedia. It's more cultural, but if you go into the actual inventory area, they do tell you what all the food in game does, like how much health and HP and whatever perks or abilities that they provide you, and that's really about it. And honestly, it's actually kind of sad thinking about the inventory piece, because one of the things that you can get in the game are um, different prayer bead bracelets and everything, and it's just kind of they put them there. There isn't really any sort of like interesting historical context or anything like that. There's no detailed encyclopedia entries for any of these prayer bracelets. It's
Mm-hmm.
just kind of a hey, this bracelet does X thing. So it's almost kind of like they really couldn't they really couldn't put all the time in the world that they wanted to
Right.
in detailing all the encyclopedia stuff, which is a little bit of a shame.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that's understandable. You have to stop somewhere, and
Yeah.
um, but from what they give you, I mean, the is the world fully realized, or does it feel like it's a half measure? Or I mean, do you how do I put this? Does it feel like a unique world, or does it feel like a skin on top of something you've played before?
It definitely feels unique, especially sort of um, the haunting atmosphere
Mm.
with the premise that all of humanity has been completely disappeared. So the city of Tokyo is basically being completely overrun by demons and everything. So um, it's definitely sort of got a haunting quality to it, because yeah, they're just no human beings. They're sort of demons around the corner and everything. And the game incrementally adds demons. So things that you encountered as boss demons, they eventually start appearing sort of just in the streets every once in a while. So it it kind of ups the ante sometimes, because if you're sort of wandering the streets trying to find like a relic or something something quest related, then you kind of have to take mind of your surroundings, because you don't know that there could be a boss monster sort of hanging out and around where you're trying to go searching, and the particular boss demon that is just sort of hanging around town could be one that has the ability to uh, uh, separate Akito from KK's um, Akito and KK, where you end up losing all of your spiritual powers, and the only offensive tool that you'll have is just a bow and an arrow and your wits, and that's it.
Mm. Okay.
Um, so I mean, there's that, but uh, and that's where it kind of gets into one of the sort of annoyances I have with um, with the game because there's something that's just really cool, in my opinion, but the way it's implemented is just really um, a real. It's really a pain in the ass.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the mechanics you get introduced to later is the Ghost Parade, and it's neat because basically um, it just looks like this very very menacing um, parade of demons. Just you see things like giant cat demons, ogres, and ghosts, and all sorts of manner of things, just sort of in a big entourage, just covered by life-draining fog. And when the game introduces you to this concept, they pretty much say, "Hey, don't mess with the Ghost Parade. You need to go find a place and hide because if you mess with this Ghost Parade, they will mess up your day." So, of course, uh, naturally, the player takes that as a warning and goes, "Okay, if that's the case, I'll make sure to stay out of their way." And then the tutorial message that you get about the Ghost Parade sort of gives you another reminder about how the Ghost Parades can show up at a whim. What annoys me is so the game uh, ha has a tally of how many souls that you've saved,
Mm-hmm.
and you can save souls by doing certain events, um, just spelunking around the city and collecting them, just all sorts of ways to save these souls. And one of the things that some people may not realize is they may be collecting all the souls in the city, and then they notice, hey, that's odd. I'm sitting at um, a soul collection of about 92, 93%. Where are the remaining souls? I don't see them. Turns out that you have to actually fight through some of these ghost parades in order to get the last remaining souls.
So you basically have to fight these monsters that are several levels above what you are.
Well, in the beginning, they are several levels above, but um, by the time most players are towards either level 30 or level 40,
Mm-hmm.
they should be able to do these without any problem. And then the max cap for the game is level 50.
Okay.
So if you're at level 50, then it shouldn't be a problem. You'll probably have to just um, be more mindful of your item management and everything and make sure you have stuff to keep yourself topped off and healed if you're taking hits left and right. But
Mm-hmm.
um, by level 30 and 40, it really shouldn't be an issue.
Okay.
So, but yeah, it's just the fact that the game doesn't even really have a reminder to say, hey, by the way, if you're trying to save all the souls in Tokyo, you need to participate in these ghost parades and fight through the ghost parade to save the few souls that got pulled in and pulled into them.
I,
And go
I'm
ahead.
just. Go ahead.
So, um, and what additionally makes the ghost parades annoying is um, the ghost parades show up on sort of an RNG mechanic. Um,
Oh. Okay.
some people are speculating that you can only encounter a ghost parade once per or once per hour of elapsed game time. And some people are speculating you can run into a ghost parade once every 20 to 30 minutes of elapsed game time. So pretty much, let's say you haven't done any of the ghost parades, and for some perspective, the ghost parades end up giving you about 2 to 3 thousand souls, and you're supposed to collect a grand total of 15,000. So easily, you're having to um, grind this ghost parade five or so times to try to make sure that you get all of the souls that that are stuck from the Ghost Parade.
Hmm.
And if it's once every hour, then yeah, you're literally spending 5 hours of your real life kind of wandering aimlessly, trying to see if you can proc the Ghost Parade to show up, and then get into the Ghost Parade, do a fight, and then after that, you have to once again repeat and grind for another hour until you bump into the next parade.
Hmm. Okay. I mean, is that a? It sounds annoying, but is it a big deal or is it kind of just an annoyance?
It's a bit of an annoyance because there is there is a achievement in the game uh, for for collecting all the souls, which that's normally something for the achievement hunters out there. But in the trophy list, there's a mention of another achievement that basically says collected all the souls before completing the end of the game.
Oh, okay.
So I take that to mean that there is a better ending, but you must collect all of the souls in order to get the best ending.
Okay, so you're going for the completionist route right now.
Not really completionist route, but more the better ending route
Okay.
because you need to collect all the souls, I assume, to get the better ending.
Okay. All right. So overall, it sounds like you're enjoying the game. It,
Yeah,
you're enjoying the atmosphere than you're more enjoying the gameplay.
yeah. I mean the gameplay's not terrible, but the gameplay isn't the most groundbreaking thing ever.
Yeah. So okay. Um, is the experience unique enough for $70 to pay for it, or do you feel like you could have waited to play it?
Um, I would say if you're someone who has wanted a game that really drinks in sort of the realm of Japanese mythology and legend, then $70 might not be bad for sort of a interesting cultural trip that is really and truly unique.
Yeah.
But if you're just kind of someone who's just looking for an interesting game um, and maybe thought that Skyrim was okay, then Ghostwire might not be a great buy at $70.
Okay. So this might be for most people to be a sale item.
Yeah,
Okay.
which is a little bit unfortunate because of the fact that just the environment and lore of the game is just really cool.
I mean, is it unfortunate though? I mean, we've had this discussion a lot, and I'm of the mind that developers just need to be more realistic about how they price their games. I
Yeah,
mean, not everything is going to be a $70 premium experience. It's not. So to sell your game as if it is just going to end up in disappointment. And it sounds
oh
like
yeah,
this isn't a premium experience. This is, um, I mean, it. That's not fair. Uh, am I being
yeah, because
unfair by saying that?
I think the game right now is um averaging averaging mid 70s for the critical reviews on Metacritic and
Okay.
OpenCritic, and I think on the OpenCritic user reviews, the game is actually trending more towards an 85%. So
Okay.
um, not it's not the worst game ever, but it's not the best game ever. It's just kind of squarely right in the middle.
Okay. Okay. To me, it's gonna be waiting for a sale, because I'm kind of interested in it, but I'm only because it's not a horror game. I'm kind of interested in it because I think it looks unique. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, okay. I'm glad you're enjoying it, but yeah, to me it just sounds like you're warm on it, but you're not praising it.
yeah,
Okay.
and that's probably a fair assumption to make as well too, because as said, just I just love the environment and lore of the game. I think it's neat, but yeah, just um, the gameplay is nothing nothing too revolutionary. It just it's just almost like Skyrim, but just in a more modern contemporary setting. And instead of Western style magic spells and stuff like that, you've got more Buddhist Shintoist style magic spells and everything. And otherwise, just the visual design of the game is excellent as well too, from the environments to the demons and ghosts, and also the spells and the animations for exercising the demons as well too. Just they look excellent. But
Okay.
yeah, just gameplay wise, it's not going to be anything just revolutionary and all that. But personally, I think Tango GameWorks has a very solid foundation for something very special, and maybe they can they can branch out with more stuff. I don't know what the future plans are with Ghostwire as a whole, but I would love to see more stuff like this, uh, just from any Japanese developer, just to really dive into um, Japanese mythology and culture and everything.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. So with that, we will move on to something that how to put this? Zero, I don't think you care much for sports games. Am I right on that?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
definitely not the biggest sports guy.
Okay.
The only sports I really care about are either martial arts tournaments or road racing, and that's about it.
Okay. Hey, that's cool. But there's a reason why we're going to discuss FIFA in the FIFA soccer series for EA, and that's because their EA is in an interesting quagmire, to say the least. Uh, I don't know the exact dates, but basically, the FIFA organization that runs soccer all over the world, or football if you're in another country, they're asking for more money for their license, and apparently the amount is so exorbitant, EA is not willing to pay for the license. So it's been announced that they're going to their next game? I'm not sure. Their next game may not have the FIFA branding on it.
Yeah,
Um,
I believe it's either going to be whatever this year's entry is, or they may be planning to do this for the game that would be FIFA 2024.
okay. Okay. So this also complicates things in a way too, because the not having the FIFA backing, I believe, means that they don't have access to the tournaments and some leagues, but they have access to teams and players.
Yeah, so at least from what I've heard from some of my family and friends who are much bigger into the world of international football and everything, is essentially um, FIFA is a little bit different. It's not like the NFL that when you get the license from the NFL, you essentially also get a license to all of the players' likenesses and also the teams that they represent. Whereas FIFA, if you get the branding for FIFA, that's great, but that is mostly just for the tournament stuff and the branding for the FIFA license, and really the only thing that that you don't quite get is you do not um, necessarily get access to the teams and leagues.
Hmm.
And this is where EA was a little bit smart to have um, sort of uh, thought things out much further in the long term, because they've gone straight to the teams and leagues to negotiate to be able to use their likenesses in the FIFA games. So smart on EA for doing that, because that means even if they technically lose the FIFA license, then no big deal. They still got authority, the written authority to use the teams, the players, and whichever leagues that they've negotiated for in whatever they decide to call this game.
Yeah.
And I think rumors have been swirling around that they plan to call this uh, EA's FC or
Hmm.
EA's Football Club.
Right. And you have to, if they pull that off, you have to almost, maybe not admire, but you have to give a shout out to their legal team for getting so many different licenses under one banner. But I would have to admit, that's that's gotta be pretty expensive to get all those individual licenses at once.
Yeah, I'd have to imagine so as well too, especially since you're not paying, and you're not just paying FIFA to get the FIFA license, you're paying FIFA to have the FIFA branding,
Yeah.
but also in addition to that, you also have to pay all the teams and leagues who have agreed to allow you to use their likenesses in the game. So that's on top of all the FIFA licensing fees. So yeah, that's got to be just one hell of a money pit.
Yeah. So the question I have really in this, it looks like FIFA was asking for more than double. Oh my god, more than double their licensing fee. Wow. Okay. That's extortion.
Yeah.
Not that I want to defend EA, really, but yeah, that's much. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Um,
And supposedly rumors were basically FIFA was trying to hardball EA and basically say, "Hey, well, we're kind of the only game in town. We are literally the league or the tournament sanctioned body for the um, world's international football leagues and teams. So, you're just gonna have to suck it up and just pony up the price."
yeah. In all fairness, they might have had to get it, but and especially since uh, if you need FIFA and their ultimate team is what brings in all the money, which it is, they kind of had a gun to their head and they might have to do it. But it looks like they're not doing it. They're doing the EAFC thing. The question I have is this: you may not remember this, Zero, but after EA got the license for the NFL and made it exclusive, Sega decided to do another football game, and the football game was All Star Football 2K8, I think. And what they did was they got the licensing of different retired players, including John Elway and a good choice, O.J. Simpson, to put it in their game and just make a different type of game. It was the same engine as the 2K series that they had, um, but it failed. It didn't make much sales, and critically, it didn't do well either. So, the question I have, I mean, part of these sports simulators is the fact that you are simulating the actual professional game. And part of it is to have those licenses. Do you really think EA can do this without the license and be successful?
That's going to be interesting. Since I'm not much of a sports head,
Mm-hmm.
I feel a little bit underqualified to speculate on this.
Okay.
But in my opinion, sort of as a person on the outside, um, if the new EAFC is essentially just the same great game as the former FIFA games, just without the expensive branding uh, of the FIFA branding for the tournaments and stuff like that, then most players may not care, especially if they're kind of casual and just kind of like, okay, yeah, just as- s- um, especially if EA is smart about it and does sort of a rebranding campaign, and I
Yeah.
guess, for lack of a better way of putting it, educates all the casual gamers saying, hey, we're changing our name. It's still the same great game, still the same great flavor you expect, just under a different brand. Then yeah, just this whole not having the FIFA brand is going to be a non-issue. Now, if EA is lazy and complacent and goes, we'll call it EAFC. All the players will flock to us because we've got the superior product, and they don't do any sort of like educational rebranding efforts to sort of market the new branding change. Then there might be some trouble getting it off the ground, and then um, maybe with the help of some game reviewers, you might have some of the game reviewers going, "Oh yeah, it's still just EA's FIFA, just without the FIFA brand." And at that point, they might be able to luck out with word of mouth sales helping things along. But yeah, it's really going to be hard to see, in my opinion. Though I do think because EA did do the legwork to get all of the actual teams and leagues signed on to license with them,
Mm-hmm.
that at least they had that part covered. So um, having all of the world famous football stars in this new EAFC, that's gonna be an easy sell, especially for anyone who's a big international football fan, because at that point they can go, yeah, I get to play my favorite guy from this particular league or whatever.
Yeah, and that's what's going to be important, especially with their what do you call it, with their ultimate team, because the whole point of ultimate team is to take these players and to make a squad with them. Now, the way that the squad builder works, they may have to change a few things because they won't have access to the leagues, but I can I could see it kind of working for them. They may not make as much sales as they would on a regular FIFA year, because I don't see, how to put this, I don't see EA increasing sales when they go to EAFC, because that's still a brand, and the brand name is important. And once you've cultivated that brand, just to go ahead and you know to jettison it just at 1 year, it's going to take a few years the for the player base that's not so into the minutia to realize, oh, FIFA is now EAFC.
Yep.
So they're going to lose sales on that. I think if they stick to their guns in 3 years, they'll be back to getting raising profits and raising revenue on this. That
Yeah.
also said, they could increase the prices on Ultimate Team to make up the cost, which is something I'm a little worried about with this, because with here's the thing, with not having the FIFA license, they don't have to share the money with FIFA. That's more
Exactly.
profits to them. So they can take all that Ultimate Team money and keep it and get more revenue just by doing that. So they they may lose sales, but they may actually gain more revenue in this. So I think they're going to be okay, but it's not. It's going to be rocky for the first year. That's how I
Yeah.
would look at it.
Yeah. Personally, it will be rocky unless they really get on it and just sort of work with maybe like a PR firm to specialize in making a consumer education campaign to say, "Hey, we've rebranded," and get the rebranding hype going.
I,
Because as long as they do that, then it may just be business as usual. I don't know.
that would be costly, though. I mean, that's
Oh yeah, it will definitely eat into their revenue for sure.
they they don't have to do it in the U.S. because the U.S. doesn't count for a lot of the sales for FIFA. I don't think. I might be wrong with that, but I'm fairly sure. I'm fairly certain that the sales in the U.S. doesn't is not a big percentage, but in other countries, it's huge. So you would have to do
Yeah.
not only this big campaign, but do it in multiple languages, multiple cultures. You have to get different. You might have to get different stars involved, so that's costing more money in order to actually get different cover athletes to get this going. That's costly. So yeah, it's the more you think about it, the more that they're gonna have to spend a lot of money to get this to make sure that this game gets to where it is. My my thing would be this would be the perfect time when you're rebranding it as EAFC to update the engine, to update the game physics, to do a complete workaround. So you not only have a new name, it feels like a new game, and it gets more people excited to play the game because word of mouth goes crazy on Twitter to when it comes to gaming. And if suddenly you have these people who are used to playing FIFA saying, "Oh my God, EAFC is the best thing since FIFA 16 or FIFA 15 or whatever," and they're
Right.
saying, "Oh my God, this is amazing. They did such a great job," you're gonna get more sales regardless. But I don't think they're gonna do that because that's more money to spend to
Yep.
to do it. So I think their sales are going to go down the first year, and it will incrementally go back up. But I could be wrong. I it's is it a smart move? It's debatable. If it were me, I'd pay for the license and just increase costs to I hate saying that because I think the money that you spend on microtransactions is ridiculous. But like we've also discussed, sports gamers don't care, so they'll pay for it.
Yep.
Uh, but if you're not going to do it, why not make more revenue? Why not improve the game to increase your chances of revenue? And then if it does really well, I will bet money FIFA will come back and say, "Okay, let's renegotiate and we'll go for a lower cost." And then you'll have the FIFA
Yep.
license back. So and then you can say screw you or you can say, "Sure, come on board."
Yep. Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see how this ultimately plays out because, um, yeah, I mean, it could be an interesting situation if um, EA sticks the landing and this ends up just being just an insane moneymaker that FIFA ends up essentially crawling back, going, "Hey, so remember how last year we wanted you to basically pay double? Um, well, let's not be too hasty. Let's, maybe go back to the drawing board and, negotiate a better rate." So, um, but who knows? It may not. Um, it may not do gangbusters in its first run with the new branding. There's really no telling, but we'll have to keep our eyes out on this. But as a person who's always been curious about the video game industry, I'm definitely going to be really curious on how this pans out.
Yeah, definitely. Well, speaking of the game industry, we're going to move on. And one of the big things in the game industry now are subscription services. And the big subscription service that everyone talks about is Xbox Game Pass. And we discussed in our special episode last Saturday, I think.
Yeah,
Yes, it came out on Saturday. We discussed the rumor of Project Spartacus, which was going to be the quote unquote the Game Pass for PlayStation. Well, it looks like on Tuesday they had a blog post that announced the new PlayStation Plus. Um, I'll go over it right now. There are 3 tiers to PlayStation Plus that is starting in June. There is the basic tier, which is essentially PlayStation Plus as it is, and it's the same price, so nothing new there. There is PlayStation Plus Extra, which adds a catalog of up to 400 of the most enjoyable PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 games, including blockbuster hits from our PlayStation Studio and catalog and third party partners. These are downloadable. That's going to be for about $100 a year, or I think it was $12.99 a month.
Yeah, I believe so. I think the blog post should have the pricing breakdowns.
I'll get it. PlayStation. No, $14.99 a month. So the cost of Game Pass Ultimate is PlayStation Plus Extra, which is essentially PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now combined. Then there's PlayStation Plus Premium. They gotta really work on these names. All the benefits from the essential and extra tiers, but also adds 340 additional games, including PS3 games available from cloud streaming. We'll discuss why that is. And a catalog of classic games available both in streaming and download options from the original PlayStation, PlayStation 2, and PSP generations. Okay. And that is God, that pricing. $17.99 a month or $120 yearly. And then
also, one of the other things for the premium tier is cloud streaming access for PlayStation, PS2, PSP, and PS4 games that are offered in the extra and premium tiers, where PlayStation Now is currently available. And if you're subscribed to this, then you'll be able to stream these games via your PS4, PS5, or your PC.
But you'd have to have the premium to do that.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And you get time limited game trials that'll be offered in this tier. So that's something.
Well, and then additionally, they have a little addendum that there will also be a tier called PlayStation Plus Deluxe,
Yeah.
but this will only be offered in certain markets, so they say. And they clarify by saying, for markets without cloud streaming, PlayStation Plus Deluxe will be offered at a lower price compared to Premium and includes a catalog of beloved classic games from the original PlayStation, PS2, PSP generations to download and play, along with time-limited demos. And then it also includes the benefits from the essential and extra tiers included. And the usual boilerplate disclaimer of pricing will vary depending on the market where they launch the deluxe edition tier.
Okay. So we discussed this last week. I think you should reiterate your point that you had when it came to announcing this.
Yeah, I had speculated that this was just going to be a real quiet blog post and just kind of just, hey, we're announcing it. All right, so moving on. And that's pretty much exactly what happened, because they had made this announcement right at about, I want to say, real early in the morning, maybe about 7 or 8 a.m. Central Time.
Mm-hmm.
So real early, and then they just sort of shuffled it, and we're just like, all right, so we announce it. Bye.
Yeah.
I think really my concern is just where they make the mention of games being available to be either streamed or to be downloaded. So it's interesting mostly because of the fact that with Xbox Game Pass, streaming is a additional perk. It's not something that separates what games can be played via streaming only versus which games can be completely downloaded and played locally on your console or your PC. And for Xbox, one of the great examples of the streaming perk being used is, let's say there's a game that came out for Xbox Series X, but you might have trouble sourcing one, and all you have is an Xbox One. Then in theory, you can stream these games to your Xbox One and still play them. So that's one use case scenario. The other use case scenario is using your Xbox app on your Android phone or using the Xbox web app on an iOS device.
Mm.
You can just plug up a controller, stream a game from the Xbox cloud servers, and play whatever. And then lastly, being able to stream a game to either your gaming PC or your Xbox Series S or X console because maybe you're in a situation that um, you can't install a game to a hard drive, like say, I don't know, work laptop, and you're out of town.
Hmm.
Um, then instead you can just kind of run your Xbox games through a browser and play it that way. Or maybe you have an Xbox Series S and you haven't gotten one of the external NVMe hard drives to plug into your console, so um, your your 512 gig SSD is full. Then in that case, you can stream the game to your Xbox Series S and play it without having to worry about managing your hard drive so you can install whichever game you're wanting to play.
Mm.
So uh, that's where streaming is available as a perk um, for Xbox Game Pass, where it's a little bit concerning with PlayStation being real ambiguous on which games can or cannot be downloaded completely to your hard drive and which games will be limited to streaming only. Um, Mostly, my concern with that is if they end up trying to negotiate with the third party to make a game available, and maybe maybe this developer doesn't want their game to be downloaded locally on to a PlayStation console. If that game's an action game, and if it's an action game that's got just frame perfect or reflex intensive sort of actions and context skills that you have to use to counter or something like that, it's not going to be fun playing that game on streaming. Just
No, it's not. No, it's
um,
not.
doesn't matter if you've got gigabit internet or if you're unfortunately out in the sticks with a satellite internet connection. It's just not going to be fun.
Mm.
So that's that's one of my big concerns. And then secondly, they made no teasers on which classic PlayStation games are coming. Sure, they use the term beloved classics, but what might be beloved by the players might not be beloved by the corporate suits who made this announcement.
Right.
So, um, and I mean, it's understandable that they are not trying to compete with the Game Pass model of making some of their biggest hits available day one of launch. I know for PS4 and PS5, they made some hints to allude that uh, during launch they'll have games like Death Stranding, God of War, um, Spider-Man Miles Morales, Mortal Kombat 11, and Returnal.
Hmm.
Which, I mean, some of those are great, but really the only games that I could see appealing to everyone are really going to be God of War, Spider-Man Miles Morales, and Mortal Kombat 11.
And if they appealed to you, you probably already bought it for cheap by now.
Yep. And in my opinion, those games that they've outlined as being available on launch, those are kind of um, in the territory of greatest hits territory.
Hmm.
And it's exact like you said, either you bought them cheap or you can probably find them with the red greatest hits label on PS4 for maybe about 10 or $20, depending if they're on sale or not.
Hmm.
So, and then this one is more of a gripe for me personally. Uh, so one of the things that I rather liked about the PS3 was on the PSN store, occasionally there would be PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 classics that you could completely download and play.
Yes.
And it was great. And in some cases, some of the PS1 games were actually compatible with the PlayStation or the PSP and the Vita.
Hmm.
So uh, if you wanted, classic Final Fantasy VII, yeah, you could load that thing up on your PSP and just say, I'm taking Final Fantasy VII with me on the go. and um, just really really cool stuff, and uh, really wasn't a need for a subscription to play them or anything, and it doesn't really look like there's an option uh, just just download and keep these games forever. It's just kind of the uh, I hate to use this sort of comparison, but it's almost like Nintendo Switch Online, where they're sort of trying to sell you on the idea of, hey, you can stream all these classic N64, Nintendo, Super Nintendo games to play while you have your subscription active.
Yeah,
And
that's apt. It's an apt comparison.
yep,
That's what it is.
so I mean, there's no real option to just do a complete full purchase of a game, or even offering some sort of incentive to purchase the game at a discount, because one of my favorite perks from Game Pass is the um, I forget if it's I forget how much it is, but I believe it's about a 10% discount
Hmm.
off of Xbox games if they were featured on Game Pass, and uh, that for me is great because I've had some games where I loved it. I loved it on Game Pass, and just when I see the discounted price, I'm just like, okay, you know what? Since this game is going away in 2 days, and I've put in a good maybe 10, 15 hours into the game, you know what? To hell with it. I'm just gonna go ahead and pay the extra cash and just go ahead and pay to keep this game forever.
Yeah, and there's a CDC PowerPoint that was on Twitter about, I would say, a week ago, that said that sales from Game Pass is pretty high. A lot of people, when they play games on Game Pass, they end up buying the games. So that's a plus.
Yeah. And another thing that I just remembered, uh, and it's kind of odd, is Sony really hasn't made any sort of incentives to upgrade to the higher tier. Um, if you're already a current PlayStation Plus subscriber,
Hmm.
and it's really strange to see, because I would think that you would want to just go ahead and get people converted, because once you get people converted over, then at that point you can just sort of milk the fact that you've got people who are pretty much subscribed, and um, once they subscribe, they're not going to want to be without the benefits. Kind of like what Microsoft did with Xbox Game Pass, where if you were a Xbox Live Gold member, then you could actually convert your membership to an Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription
Yeah,
at the rate of $1 per month.
yeah,
And some people had 3 years of Xbox Live membership stacked up on their account. So pretty much, uh, when they heard the conversion rate was pretty much um, $1 per month, for them it was just kind of a no-brainer. They're just like, you know, um, how can I say no to $1 per month to basically get the Netflix of video games?
yeah,
You know what? Done. You've got my cash, Microsoft. And Sony's offered no sort of upgrade path. It's just kind of a, hey, so here's our pricing, and yeah, that's all we got. Mostly because the essential tier is essentially the same, so
yeah,
it's not like you're having to force people to pick either the extra or premium tier. It's just, hey, if you're on the essential tier, good for you. But yeah, it just kind of surprises me that they didn't sort of have any sort of marketing plan to say, hey, you know what, we should really offer some of some of these people who are invested in PlayStation and are going to be continually renewing their membership, some sort of path to incentivize them and say, hey, you know, you've got 1, 2, or 3 years worth of PlayStation Plus membership. If you convert to either extra or premium, we can offer you a discount of, this much per month, and you know It'll be great. And yeah, just no sort of incentivization that I can discern of from their news post this morning.
Yeah. Um, I think from a marketing standpoint, they well, let me back up here. They're going to announce upgrades, probably a month before this launches. My what piques my curiosity is that they announced something that's coming out in June. That is a hardware, which is basically a hardware feature. I think marketing that's a bad idea because you want the most you want to give somebody is a month so they can think about it and the thought process. Oh, do I want it? Do I want it? Oh, my time. It's gonna be soon. Okay, I'll try it. You want that? Oh, what do you call it? You want that instant sale, that compulsory sale, and giving somebody 3 months to look at everything and say, this doesn't look good. I'm not bothering. It gives them enough time to forget about it. And I think that's
Yeah.
going to happen with a lot of people here. They're going to forget about this until it comes out in June. And then, unless they do a big marketing push, then I think a lot of people are not going to be interested in this. Um, the pricing is strange. And the way they break everything down is strange too. With Xbox, it literally is the only tier. There's not even tiers. It is: do you want it for PC? Do you want it for Xbox? Or do you want it for both? That's it.
Yep.
This is. I mean, they renamed PlayStation Plus to PlayStation Plus Essential when it's nothing different. Just call it PlayStation Plus. So that when
Yep.
you call it PlayStation Plus Extra, it means something. Now that you have Essential and Extra, there's a bit of a chance for it to confuse people. Well, I have Essential, I have Extra. What's the difference? Well, isn't it this? I don't know. It and the fact that Extra is the price of Game Pass Ultimate. It's $15, and you're only getting PS4 and PS5 games. People are going to compare that and say, well, I'm getting less for the same price I get Xbox Ultimate. Because with Xbox Ultimate, I'm getting everything. I'm getting Xbox games. I'm getting Xbox 360. I'm getting Xbox One. I'm getting Xbox Series X games. I'm also getting PC games. But you're
Yep.
going to limit my $15 to just PS4 and PS5 games? That's weird. And then the premium title, and premium, which is eight, $18 $18 a month. Why not 20? Or honestly, why not? This should be 15. Let me be clear. This should be $15. This should be yeah, like there's a ton wrong with this. That on a marketing sense, I just sit here and look at this and go, I mean, is this just Game Pass has been around for what now? 4 years? 5 years? If
Yeah, I
that?
want to say they're 3 to 5 years, somewhere in that
Okay.
time frame.
You've had time to come up with something that is better or comparable to this. This seems
Yeah.
rushed. This is
Yeah,
basically
and even
good.
more so, they've had plenty of time to even study the competition.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not like they're sort of undergun going, "Oh my God, what do we do? They just announced Xbox Game Pass. What do we do?" It's, hey, they've had this thing for a few years now. Um, we should start thinking on how to counterplay this. Just, and I agree with you. It definitely seems like just a hasty, cobbled together mess of, okay, well, now that now that the ninth gen consoles are a little bit easier to get, what do we do to incentivize people to really dig their knees in real deep into the PlayStation ecosystem?
Yeah.
Microsoft has it down with Game Pass, but they also control the Windows PC space, so
Mm-hmm.
we can't compete with them there. What do we do to say, hey, we we've got a way for you to play a bunch of PlayStation games and incentivize you to stick with PlayStation. And yeah, it just seems like, okay, well, let's do this and see how it turns out, and just make like a ball of spaghetti and just try to huck it and see if it sticks on the wall.
Yeah. I mean, PlayStation Plus Extra. Let's be fair, or let's be honest. PlayStation Plus Extra is PlayStation Now smushed into PlayStation Plus. That's it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And in this one, if I'm reading this correctly, you don't even get the streaming with this. You just get the downloadable, which the downloadable is better. I'll say that, but that's now a feature you're gating off for no reason.
Yep.
Um, and people are gonna think this is nitpicky but you are clearly reacting to another. You're clearly reacting to the competition. You're not providing something new. You're catching up, and like we said, you've had about 5 years now to catch up, and this is what you come up with. You're gating everything into different price tiers, where, like I said, and this could also be because their architecture is not great when it comes to getting different older systems like PS3. Now, I will say PS3 games via cloud streaming only. There's always been difficulty with emulating PS3 games, but you'd think Sony would be the one that would figure it out.
Well, that's where it gets ironic because Mark Cerny actually had a white paper right before the PS5 was released, and he basically had put in the white paper, hey, the PS5 has the horsepower to run everything via hardware emulation, and just purely on the processor power that um, in theory, you should just be able to stick up a PlayStation 1 disc. Boom, you're off to the races.
Yeah,
Same with PS2 and PS3. So that has me sort of scratching my head. It's just like, yeah, I understand that the cell architecture was real weird, real finicky, and had its own complications. But at the same time, your lead hardware architect has done the research, he's done the math, and he has even pushed out a white paper that can be publicly viewed by the entire world that basically says, yeah, the PS5's got the horsepower to run everything up to current in the entire PlayStation library.
mm.
It just kind of has me scratching my head going, "Oh, okay, well, if that was the case many years ago, what changed? Why all of a sudden, oh, well, technically we can't actually run um, we can't run PS3 games on the PS5, and the only way you can play them is via streaming. It just kind of has me scratching my head and asking, okay, well, what changed? Why is Mark Cerny's paper all of a sudden and not applicable now? Because
Yeah.
he even mentioned before the release, yeah, you should be able to just stick your PS3 disc or whatever PlayStation console disc into the new PS5 and play the game just like how you played on the original system.
The answer is simple. They can charge you for that.
Yeah.
And people are willing to pay for it. I guess. Well, I don't know about this. To be completely honest. Um. Yeah, I'm just looking at this, and I'm even in a compulsory thinking. Like, if this was available in 2 weeks, I don't think I'd buy it. I don't think
Yeah,
I get the premium. I would wait to see exactly what they have, and if I don't already own it on my PlayStation 3 that I have a box somewhere with all my games downloaded, I I'm gonna look at this and go, I don't see why I get this.
yeah. Especially even more so when you put into consideration that the Xbox One and Xbox Series X consoles, if you have the original um, Xbox 360 discs, you
Yeah,
can just drop them in the drive and play. Whereas um, with this, your PlayStation 5 is granted a license to stream or play authorized downloads while your subscription period is active, but
yeah. God,
no no mention of, hey, by the way, do you have do you have your original PS2 disc? Yeah, just throw it into your PS5. You'll be able to play just as you did on your old PS2 console.
why no Vita?
Yeah, that's a little weird too.
Um, I can understand some games where you just can't because of the back and forward touchscreens.
Yep.
But there were plenty of games on there where they didn't use them at all, where you could just use the touchpad. Well, actually, mm,
Well, as far as the touchpad stuff goes, Sony sort of had a system with the PS TV where
yeah,
if you held one of the when you held one of the trigger buttons, L2 or R2,
hmm,
then you could either specify either you were using the front or back touchpads. Now, games that simultaneously use both, yeah, probably going to be a little difficult to
yeah,
do. But
yeah. Like
yeah,
you're not gonna play Tearaway on that.
yeah.
Yeah,
So, um, and of course, it'd be a licensing nightmare. Um,
yeah,
but not and I mean, it might not be. I mean, my thought is if you have a Vita cartridge, maybe the Vita is your authentication device. You just plug that into your PS5. Your PS5 authenticates that the cartridge is legit, and then boom, you can play whatever Vita cartridge that's in your Vita console on your PS5. So
yeah.
maybe that's one way you could get around people who are really heavily invested in the Vita cartridges, because I sure as hell know I was.
I wasn't. I actually I bought a Vita and did not like it.
But
And
yeah,
the shock that I'm feeling in your silence is not, it's something. I know I'm one of the few who feel this way because I know people love the Vita, but those sticks just did not feel well with me. Like
yeah, the analogs were definitely not perfect.
and then the fact that the back was completely flat just made my hands feel uncomfortable after playing for a little while.
Yeah,
So, eh. But I'll admit it's a good system. It did nothing for me whatsoever. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, you're gonna you're gonna call into question all these different things when you're gating off certain systems, or you're piecemealing it into these weird kind of how do I put this? When you're getting into these weird tiers, I think premium and essential, it should be PlayStation Plus and it should be PlayStation Premium. That's it.
yeah,
It the extra, I I don't I see someone looking at that and going, why would I? Maybe this is why they did this. Why would I pay $15 a month for this when for $3 more I can get PSP, PlayStation 2, and PlayStation games?
yeah,
But then turn around and go, but that's almost $20 a month, and I don't know what games I'm getting. So it would depend on the games that they're. It would also depend on the games that they're releasing, and from what I've seen in the past with Sony when it comes to let's look at their PS2 to PS4 games. They had some decent games, but a lot of them not that interesting. I don't know anybody who is looking to play Okage Shadow King, but they released that. Or the original
Yeah,
Dark Cloud, they released that. they, they, and then this also goes to licensing. If they can't get the licenses to these games, then that's another problem. So, I, I don't know. I I just look at this and say I'm not upgrade. I don't think this is worth upgrading to.
yeah. I know for me, I might investigate it just for journalistic
Yeah,
purposes,
of course.
to just try to check it out and investigate and see what it's all about, and maybe make my assessment whether or not it's worth it or not for the average consumer or something. But yeah, I just really find it hard to stomach the cost of $120 per year, when at the same time, um, $120 a year was the previous price of Amazon Prime, and even when Prime was losing benefits, you're still getting substantially more benefits than than you are with PlayStation Plus Premium.
I think they bungled this announcement, and they bungled it. I think most people are going to look at it as, this was just an announcement. Who cares? That's the point. They bungled it.
Yeah,
They not only announced it by what you said they were going to do it with, which is the worst way, a blog post. They also they they have this tiering system that just seems the tiering system bothers me. I just don't get why they did it this way. Like the extra should go, premium should be the cost of extra, and you shouldn't be gating streaming to you should be getting streaming period. You should be using streaming as a service to your entire PlayStation Plus lineup. Now, I don't know if you mentioned this yet. We mentioned this before we started talking, before we started recording, but you mentioned they're not flush with cash. They're not as deep. They don't have deep pockets like Microsoft does. So if that's the
yeah,
case, and you can't match the product, why do it?
yeah. It
P-
definitely has me scratching my head because I mean, I know when Xbox Game Pass initially came out, I know one of the funnier pieces that people like to quote very often is, "Well, Jim Ryan said it's a loss leader. No one can sustainably do it." It's just like, well, that's the point. That's the point of the loss leader concept. It's like how Gillette razors work. Um, Gillette loses money when you buy the razor starter package because the handle costs more than the blades, but
yeah,
they make it up eventually over time with you basically going, "Hey, I like these blades. I'm gonna keep buying the blades for a long while." And it's the same thing with Xbox Game Pass. Sure, yeah. Um, in the short term, they're losing a lot of money because they're providing a whole bunch of premium games right at the start, at launch, during the launch periods, because just easy way to get people in and say, "Hey, yeah, check this out. I'm getting Starfield for free day one, whenever Starfield comes out.
yeah,
I'm getting, you know, Halo Infinite when it comes out." Just you're getting all these real big label titles, and yeah, it costs Microsoft some money in the short term, but they'll easily make it up by you just kind of sitting on your subscription for a good while, because you end up going, "Hey, you know what? I like all these games that are available. I'm just going to keep holding on to my service because just That's 15 per month. Not a big deal.
Yeah, and not only are they willing to pay for, not only people willing to pay for games that they play on Game Pass, they're also willing to pay for DLC. So
Yep.
if Microsoft may be giving away these games on their Game Pass, but that doesn't mean they're not going to make DLC for these games. And if they
Yep.
have access to the games, they'll pay for the DLC if they want it. So,
Yep.
and
And that's the best part too. So with Game Pass, in some cases, games with microtransactions, you'll get a discount on the microtransactions.
mm,
So it's an even smarter play because just maybe you get to play the multiplayer of this one game, and this one game might have like DLC packs or card packs or something like that, and then you as a Game Pass member, you potentially get a discount of maybe 10% on the DLC pack. Then you end up going, yeah, you know what? I want to buy some DLC for this game. I want to buy microcurrency packs, or you know microcurrency for a game. And if you get a discount on top of that, then yeah, just you're sort of hooked into the system. And at that point, it's real easy to say, okay, cool, I guess you're sticking around for Game Pass because you got a discount on the microtransactions.
mm. Wait, I just thought of something. Aren't the
Oh,
consoles lost leaders?
not anymore.
No?
This past generation, the consoles either break even or make a little bit of profit now.
Okay, all right. Because I just thought about that. You mentioned lost leaders and how you're gonna Jim Ryan, man. I don't know. You like I said, the what's genius about Game Pass is, and the stats are out there now. Yeah, you're giving away these games for $15 a month, but if they're good and people keep playing them and they keep supporting them, they'll want to buy more from them. I mean, like the Bethesda games. Okay? Yeah, you're going to get them on Game Pass for free. Okay. But you know damn well if someone played through Starfield and DLC comes out, they're going to buy the DLC because they
Oh
want to
yeah.
continue that game. So it's
Hell, I'll be one to admit, when Forza Horizon 4 came out for Xbox One, on Game Pass, that
mhm.
hey, you can play the game completely for free, but if you want all the extra content, like the extra cars that are coming out and stuff, they had a DLC package. So in case if I didn't have the $100 to pony up for Forza Horizon 4
Yeah.
and the DLC, then instead I could just pay $50 to get literally just a DLC pack.
Yeah, well,
And
that's smart. That's
yeah,
and you're paying. And I've played Forza Horizon 4. I play it on PC. They give you a lot of content, so the DLC is worth it if you're still playing it. So, um, like I said, this it's more money for a service you're getting less of. Is how I take it. You're not getting new PlayStation games. They've already said they're not doing that.
yeah.
Who knows what the cutoff time is? My guess is a year. Like if they're gonna wait a year for, like, let's say God of War Ragnarok to be out, and then they put it on the PlayStation, because unless you make it so restrictive that it's kind of silly to wait, I don't know. I'm I'm looking at this announcement and I'm just saying meh is how I look at this. It's like you're you're making I hate saying this. You're making me think about my the way I'm spending my money. And that's already a bad thing when it's something that It's non-essential. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
If you're making me think, like if I'm not thinking I have to have this because this is just a good deal, then you've already lost. This is not a good deal. It's
yep. Because I think one of the more funny discussions I saw this morning from Reddit and some of the online forums is um, someone put this point that was really hilarious to hear.
mhm.
They had said that the pricing for PlayStation Plus Premium supposedly downright um, made Nintendo Switch Online with the expansion pack look downright reasonable.
Really, they said that.
Yeah,
Because
which
I don't know
that
about
made me
that.
laugh.
I, I don't know about that, but the expansion pass for the N64 isn't it like $30 more?
Yeah, so it's 50/50 for the year.
Yeah. Whereas you'd pay 20 and get the NES and Super NES. Oh, but you're
Yeah,
also getting the DLC from Mario Kart
Animal
and Animal
Crossing.
Cross. Yeah. Uh, that's a
But yeah, it
wash.
was one of the more funny discussions I saw. It's just like,
Yeah.
ooh, that is a spicy take, but
But the fact that people are thinking about that is it just goes to show this wasn't a slam dunk. This is not. This. I don't think many people are going to go for this. I think they're going to look at that and go, "Oh, that's cool. I'll keep my PlayStation Plus, thanks." And
yeah,
now you have the service that. Now I don't know how much money PlayStation Now makes. Every poll I see, no one subscribes to it. Um, I just, I just don't see how this is going to work out for them. And I think we discussed it last week. It just sounds like they're saying we got one. What else do you want? We got
yeah.
one. So I don't know. I don't know, Zero. I think this is a middling to poor uh, product that they're bringing out, and I think it's gonna have sales as such.
Yeah, and I'm inclined to agree, especially since um, really just uh, the fact that they haven't really put out a general plan of things to tease and say, hey, look, we've got the following games that are going to be available. Just they've got they've got literally nothing to show for themselves to say, hey, you need to really get excited compared to the lead up to um, Xbox Game Pass, which I remember Microsoft just teasing the hell out of all the stuff that they had they had set up. They had
Yeah,
a whole bunch of stuff that they were just like, "Hey, we're gonna have this. We're gonna have this." You've got stuff available day one that uh, that's going to be on Xbox One and not now Series X. That is going to be available to play. It's just going to be something really exciting and really special. Just we hope that you look forward to it. And whereas just this is just kind of a cut and dry, hey, we're doing a thing. We have some beloved games that will be available from the PlayStation 1 to PSP and PS3 eras that are going to join the vintage collection on top of some stuff we've got available for PS4 and PS5. But that's all we got. So we'll talk to you more in June when time rolls around.
I guess they have. I guess they have a chance to redeem themselves in the next few months, but
Yeah,
I don't see it. I unless they change the pricing. But even then, even if they change the pricing and they do what I'm suggesting, it's still an inferior product. It's still it's still not as good.
yeah,
I mean,
I
just
agree. It's a pale shadow compared to what Xbox Game Pass is offering, especially if you get the Ultimate tier with both PC and Xbox stuff.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, oh, do you have more to add?
No, other than I'll be watching the um as Jim Ryan puts it, the evolution of PlayStation Plus when it arrives in June and see if they improve on it or if they just kind of sit on their laurels and go, well, we're the platform with the most install base right now for ninth gen, so um people will buy whatever product we put out there, and maybe it causes them to stumble for a bit. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether they can recover or if it's just going to be, we're doing fine, don't worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I mean, final thought. Yeah. What more is there to be said? This is it's an also ran. It's a me too. It's a it's just it's a product where I think some Sony fanboys are gonna say, "Oh, this is good enough," but you know, I if you already have Game Pass, I'm not. That's the other thing. If you already have Game Pass, you're looking at this going, "Why do I need this?"
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
odds are, the third party games are going to be the same games that are going to be on Game Pass. Mark my words. I if I had money, I would bet it that a lot of the third party games are going to be the exact same as they are on Game Pass, and it's I don't know. There's not enough unique product. There's not enough in this that gets me excited.
yeah.
That's
And it's funny you mentioned about just a game that will appear both on Xbox Game Pass Ultimate and PlayStation Plus Extra. I'm gonna make a speculative call that a game that will appear on both platforms is probably going to be something from Ubisoft.
of course, yeah.
Either that or EA.
Well, EA still has their own service, EA Play. I think that's
Yep.
still around. It's
Yeah.
just that they've integrated it to Game Pass.
Yeah, the basic tier of EA Play is available as a Game Pass perk,
Yeah,
but there is a higher tier that offers some more benefits.
right. The higher tier allows you to play any game on the EA library. I think is what it is.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I I think this is a yeah. I I the months of speculation had me interested and kind of excited. Now I'm just looking at this and going, meh. It's not. I'm not. I'm not too excited by it. So that's it. That's all I got. And with that, that's it for this episode of the Cooperative Game Chat. Tune in next week where we'll discuss more happenings and going on in the gaming industry and in our wonky opinions. I am The Wiz.
And I'm Zero.
And we will talk next time.